Hi, I'm Kat, and today I have for you a true crime case, a word in Romanian, and I will also be doing my makeup at the same time. So, the word for today is femeie. 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 Well done, guys, you just said woman. The phantom of Heilbronn's DNA was found at several crime scenes all across Germany. Police found her DNA on things like stolen cars, even cookies, and even a syringe. The frequency of her DNA being present in different crimes made investigators suspect that they were dealing with a female serial killer. The case became even more mysterious as investigators were struggling to identify this serial killer. They asked for help from profilers from various countries in Europe to assist in their search. Desperate to find anything, the police even consulted diviners and fortune tellers, hoping to find the killer's identity. The media called the case the most mysterious serial crime of the past century. This case took an unexpected turn in 1993 when the body of a 62-year-old woman called Lieselot Schlenger was found strangled in her home in Idar Oberstein. Now, before we move on, as you might have guessed by now, there are a lot of names on here which I'm going to be struggling to pronounce, so I apologize in advance. I will try my best. The only clue that the police actually found at the crime scene was DNA on a teacup near the victim. The victim was strangled with wire used to hold together a bouquet of summer flowers. But with no suspects, but with no witnesses, suspects or other evidence, the case just went cold. Lieselot was the first victim of this serial killer and master criminal who would come to be known as the Phantom of Heilbronn, or the Woman Without a Face, a prolific criminal who was connected through DNA to more than 40 crime scenes between 1993 and 2009 across Germany, France and Austria. No one was able to describe her, no one saw her, and so a hunt began for what would be one of the most prolific female serial killers of all time. 8 years later, in 2001, a 61-year-old man was found dead in Freiburg, Germany, also strangled. He was an antique dealer called Joseph Wolzenbach. There were a few similarities between his case and Lieselot's case. Some money got stolen from the scene, garden twine was used to kill the victim, but what stood out the most to the police were the matching DNA samples taken from both of the crime scenes. This time the killer's DNA was found on a kitchen drawer. Both indicated a female killer, possibly from Eastern Europe. When the murder of Joseph was connected with the 1993 case of Lieselot, German police believed that they may have a killer on their hands who was likely to strike again. From that moment on, the killer's DNA started showing up at numerous crime scenes, and police was just speechless. How could a previously unknown serial killer suddenly become so active after years of being silent? So the hunt for the Phantom of Heilbronn intensified as investigators desperately wanted to catch her and bring an end to her reign of terror. On New Year's Day 2003, an office building near Frankfurt was broken into with a tin of some coins being stolen. The DNA once again tied the case to the serial killer. Günther Horn, a prosecutor working with the police on the case, said that the robbery was a professional job and whoever police were dealing with, she seemed to know what she was doing. Her DNA continued to show up in what seemed like just random crime scenes. On a toy pistol found after a robbery of a Vietnamese gemstone trader in Arbois, France, on a syringe containing heroin on the outskirts of a forest in Germany, at an Austrian optometrist's shop after a burglary, on a bullet fired from one brother at another during a violent disagreement in the city of Worms, Germany, and on more than 20 vehicles burglaries and thefts across Germany and Upper Austria. In 2005, police even made a TV appeal for information on this prolific female criminal, but with no results. The mysterious serial killer got her nickname the Phantom of Heilbronn after a police officer was killed in the city. The connection between the officer's murder and the woman's DNA found at multiple crime scenes brought on a lot of speculation and investigation. The Phantom became a national celebrity in 2007 after the murder of the 22-year-old policewoman Michelle Kieswetter, who was working in an undercover drug squad at the time. She was shot dead in Heilbronn, a small city in Germany. Her partner, another officer assigned to the squad, was also shot, but he was in a coma for several months afterwards, and he couldn't remember anything of the attack when he woke up again. Everyone in Germany watched the case unfold, and Heilbronn police alone racked up 16,000 hours of overtime trying to find the killer. Police announced that they found DNA traces matching that of the Phantom on several cold cases, including the murder dating back to 1993. DNA found at the scene of the shooting implicated this criminal, who, because of this particular attack, became known as the Phantom of Heilbronn. A task force called Parking Lot was formed to track down this killer. Already connected to dozens of violent crimes over the course of more than a decade, capturing her was a priority. Investigators, however, they noticed that the killer's DNA rarely appeared on its own, and they came up with a theory that she collected and discarded different accomplices for every crime she committed. But they didn't know how was she doing this, not being seen, not being caught. How come she is careless and leaves DNA to all of these crime scenes, but then she's so smart that no one could really give a description of her? Despite increased police interest in finding her, she didn't stop. She didn't stop at all. Her DNA was found at a number of violent crime scenes over the following 18 months. 4 home invasions, the robbery of a woman in Saarland, the car of a nurse found dead in her vehicle, and in the vehicle used to transport the bodies of 3 Georgian men killed at the beginning of 2008. Heilbronn police alone counted, like I said, 16,000 hours of overtime in the search for the killer. At the start of 2009, the reward for information leading to the whereabouts of the woman without a face was increased to 300,000 euros, but this ended up with no results whatsoever. People in all of these areas of the crimes, they were on edge. They didn't know who could be involved with this ghost. As police studied the evidence, contradictions started emerging. This killer was not only a brutal killer suspected of committing 6 homicides, but also a common thief. She was involved in a car dealership robbery, school break-in, but in both cases, others who were convicted of those crimes denied that she ever existed. Her list of accomplices showed no pattern whatsoever. They were ranging from Slovaks to Serbs, Albanians to Romanians, and her territory stretched throughout Germany into Austria and France. No one had ever seen her, no security camera ever captured her image. But when witnesses described her, they sometimes said that she looked like a man. The DNA attributed to this serial killer was found at the following crime scenes. On a cup, after the killing of a 62-year-old woman on 25th-26th of May 1993 in Idar Oberst in Germany, for which the DNA was analyzed in 2001. Then on a kitchen drawer after the killing of a 61-year-old man on 21st of March 2001 in Freiburg, Germany. on a syringe containing heroin in October 2001 in a wooded area near Gerolstein, Germany, on the leftovers of a cookie in a trailer that was forcefully opened on the night of 24th of October 2001 in Budenheim, Germany, on a toy pistol after the 2004 robbery of Vietnamese gemstone traders in Arbois, France, on a projectile after a fight between two brothers on May the 6th, 2005 in Worms, Germany, on a stone used for smashing a window after a burglary on 3rd of October 2006 in Saarbrücken, Germany. DNA was discovered and analyzed only in 2008 after a March 2007 burglary at an optometry store in Upper Austria. After 20 burglaries and thefts of cars and motorbikes between 2003 and 2007 in Hesse, Baden-Württemberg and Saarland, Germany, Tyrol, Austria and Upper Austria, then also on a car used to transport the bodies of 3 Georgians killed on 30th of January 2008 in Heppenheim, Germany. The DNA was analyzed on 10th of March 2008. Then her DNA was also found after a burglary on the night of 22nd of March 2008 in a disused public swimming pool in Germany. It was also found after 4 cases of home invasion in Germany in March and April 2008. Then after an apartment break-in during the night of 9th of April 2008. After the robbery of a woman on 9th of May 2008 in a clubhouse in Saarholzbach in the car of an auxiliary nurse who was found dead at the end of October 2008 near Weisenberg, Germany. Years went by without any significant breakthroughs and the case became one of the strangest unsolved mysteries in criminal history. The woman without a face was a ghostly figure, leaving her mark across a series of crimes but never being caught or identified. In 2009, however, after re-evaluating the evidence and the cases, investigators actually made a shocking discovery, trying to establish the identity of a burnt body found in 2002. They were re-examining the fingerprints of a male asylum seeker taken from his asylum application made many years earlier. These fingerprints contained the serial killer's female DNA. They believed that this was just impossible, so they decided to repeat the DNA test. Around the same time, the Austrian authorities announced that they were decommissioning the use of all cotton swabs from Greiner Bio1 International as part of their investigative toolkit. The reason? Even though the swabs made by this company were sterilized, which served to destroy bacteria, viruses and fungus, it does not destroy DNA. Traces of DNA from those who had handled the swabs during their creation and packaging were still present, and it was leading to the contamination of samples taken using those swabs. On 26th of March 2009, police finally announced that they believed they found this serial killer. They also believed she was an employee at the Greiner Bio1 International factory where the swabs used by the police in the areas that she had struck were packaged. Everything pointed to that conclusion. Police forces who didn't use swabs from that company never reported an attack from the serial killer. She apparently struck across a variety of places that just so happened to use discontaminated cotton swabs. So police decided to repeat the test of the fingerprints taken from the asylum seeker. Remember when they were investigating the burnt body they found? They decided, however, that this time they are going to be using a different cotton swab from a different company. And surprise, surprise, there was no killer DNA found. The DNA found on the other cotton swabs had shown up across dozens of crime scenes for more than a decade and a half by the time that police actually realized what happened. The DNA was not found at the crime scene, but it was actually brought there on the cotton swabs because they were contaminated from the factory. For their part in this, the factory Griner Bio 1 stated that they never intended or advertised the swabs as suitable for investigative purposes. With all the sterilization and the double packaging, which possibly served to convince people that they must be safe, they still contained DNA from the people who picked the cotton used in the swabs and packaged the swabs before they were shipped out. The Austrian factory where most of the swabs used in these cases came from employed a large number of Eastern European women, matching the generic profile that was formed based on the DNA found at the scenes of the crimes. An analysis of the mitochondrial DNA from the samples collected showed that it was most often found among people in Eastern Europe and Russia. This was not discovered in the German investigations, as the analysis of DNA may not be used in criminal proceedings to determine few personal attributes of a suspect other than sex, and her existence was disputed but is now said to be untrue. The cotton swabs used by many state police departments were found to have been contaminated before shipping. It was found that the contaminated swabs all came from the same factory, which employed several Eastern European women who fit the type of DNA assumed to match. Bavaria, although a region central to the crimes, obtained their swabs from a different factory. They had no reports of crimes committed by the Phantom. The realization that the entire investigation was built on faulty evidence was a huge blow to the authorities. The case of the Phantom of Heilbronn revealed significant flaws in forensic procedures and the importance of maintaining the integrity of DNA evidence. The Woman Without a Face became a cautionary tale, highlighting the dangers of relying only on DNA in criminal investigations. The discovery of the contaminated DNA swabs revealed that there was no serial killer involved in the case of Officer Michel Kisveter's murder. The DNA found in the patrol car could be traced back to a woman working in a medical supplies packing center. It was determined that the DNA contamination happened during the collection or processing of the evidence. This came after 16 years of investigation, during which police believed they were tracking a serial killer. The case highlights the importance of maintaining strict protocols and procedures when handling forensic evidence to avoid contamination. In this case, the contamination of the DNA led to a significant misdirection of resources and a waste of money. So, the most notorious serial killer in Germany's history, believed to be responsible for 6 murders, didn't exist. The police really believed they were looking everywhere, but it turns out that they should have been looking at the cotton swabs they were using to collect DNA samples. The Phantom is now considered the most embarrassing lapse in German DNA analysis to this day. In that same year, 2009, Austrian authorities began decommissioning all cotton swabs manufactured by the Austrian company Griner Bio 1 after they had made a similar discovery with a different mysterious DNA donor. Several German states admitted that they used that same brand of cotton swab. An investigator from the state of Baden-Württemberg told Bild newspaper, quote, "The things were double packaged. We thought they were the Mercedes of cotton swabs," end of quote. But the Austrian manufacturer declared that Griner Bio 1 cotton swabs are not certified for DNA analysis. Stefan Koenig of the Berlin Association of Lawyers said that the case of the Phantom illustrates the risks of basing an investigation only on DNA evidence. Quote, "DNA analysis is a perfect tool for identifying traces. What we need to avoid is the assumption that the producer of the traces is automatically the culprit. Judges tend to be so blinded by the shiny, seemingly perfect evidence of DNA traces that they sometimes ignore the whole picture. DNA evidence on a crime scene says nothing about how it got there. There is good reason for not permitting convictions on the basis of DNA circumstantial evidence alone." End of quote. But this was far from a closed case. Germany's Federal Criminal Police Office was investigating the theory that certain batches of cotton swabs could have been contaminated at some point in their production, from when the raw cotton was picked to when the swabs were packed. Forensic analysts in Stuttgart have been testing unused cotton swabs for the phantom's DNA, but they said that so far they found no evidence of contamination. For the German police, it would be a relief to discover that this female serial killer doesn't actually exist, but it would also be a bitter confirmation of the thousands of man-hours wasted chasing a ghost and the 40 criminal investigations that are now back to square one. As a consequence of this severe case of contamination with human DNA in a series of forensic investigations, the International Organization for Standardization, or ISO, published the standard ISO 18385 in 2016 to define the requirements for producing consumables free of human DNA contamination, designated for collecting biological evidence at crime scenes to minimize the risk of human DNA contamination in products used to collect, store and analyze biological material for forensic purposes. Having reached the end of this video, can you just imagine how much time and resources were spent chasing literally an imaginary serial killer? It's just mind-blowing. Thank you guys so much for staying with me. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!